our next guest today is a president and CEO of NCCER, and Boyd Worsham is going to be joining us. And when we talk about adult education, we've really been getting into the reality that it's the end then some, like what happens after you get your high school equivalency, and how can you really make a difference in people in their lives. And part of that is making the connection between adult education and that career pathway. And we're grateful for Boyd and their partnership with COABE for NCCER. And I've been a huge fan for a long time. I used to work in an organization that had a technical college, and we were just huge fans of NCCER. And Boyd, welcome. How are you?
I am well. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Oh, thanks for jumping in today. I'm really excited because I think we finally got it. Like, we're finally starting to break down this barrier. And I will tell you that I was overly ecstatic at COABE conference this year when I walked in and saw that you guys had this just gigantic booth at the conference, and we're a big sponsor of COABE's. And first of all, thank you for that and your partnership. But it really sends a loud message across the country about how important it is for education to lead to a career pathway.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could just start us off by introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about NCCER and what it is and what you guys do.
Okay, be glad. Excuse me, Jeff. Be glad to. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Boyd Worsham. I have the privilege of leading NCCER, really the National Center for Construction Education and Research. More simply stated and more commonly stated as NCCER, but I have the privilege of leading the organization. We are based in North Central Florida, in the Gainesville, Florida area, because we're affiliated with University of Florida, but we work with universities and many other educational institutions and organizations all over the country. We are a not-for-profit 501c3 construction education foundation, and have been in existence about 28 years now. So looking forward to our 30th anniversary around the corner. We are, as I said, based strictly on construction, which I think is great for adult education, right? There's so much opportunity. And I think, Jeff, where I had kind of my aha moment was for so many years, for 38 years, I worked for a large construction and engineering firm based in Jacksonville, Florida, which is my hometown, and was very successful at recruiting out of the high schools in our area and the other educational institutions in our area. But I got to tell you, those were relatively small numbers from a scale perspective, right? I was pulling out the best 4 or 5 carpentry students, best 4 or 5 welding students, and bringing them into my construction operations in my organization there. I kind of had this aha moment of, wow, this adult education piece is where we need to really be focusing even more, right? That's not, believe me, we'll continue to focus on the high school space, the K-12 space, but why don't we really focus on what COABE does every day and what all of your member organizations do and your local programs do to really figure out how do we get those that are ready to go to work now, working faster, quicker into careers that can change their lives and making a bigger difference for industry, and much more rapid and expeditious difference for industry than we're sometimes able to make in the K-12 space.
Yeah, it's just crazy how important it is when you make that connection. But NCCER is one of those places where, our learners are getting that next step. And I saw the light bulbs go off while you were talking, by the way. I also see the construction helmet in your background, which I think is pretty cool. But it's really getting people into that career pathway and understanding that, you can be self-sufficient, but you need the math and reading skills to help you get there. You need digital literacy skills. You need all those pieces of the puzzle. But for the longest time, we provided people with a high school equivalency. We worked hard to get them their GED and work with them, and then kind of left them hanging. And now we're realizing, gosh, there's great places like NCCER that can give them a certification and help them move forward.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's the game changer. There right now are more jobs in our country than there are people to fill them. And we need to upskill our country dramatically. And the best way of doing it is taking all of our learners, our adult learners, and giving them that opportunity. So thank you so much. I'm curious from your perspective, though, what is the biggest challenge that you see students face that are trying to get that career certification and move in the construction field?
You know, Jeff, I think that the biggest challenge is making that match with employers. And that's something we just as an industry need to do better. You know, you're exactly right with what you said, right? There's these great opportunities for these people to have better jobs. The industry always looks at it, and this is something I think you and I and the other leaders at COABE and the leaders at NCCER need to help bridge. But the industry looks at it as we need the people, right? They're looking at it, that way, because that's obviously, where they're living and breathing is, we need more people to execute this work we have. But I think that, it's up to leaders like us to really talk about and get them to think about, it's not only that, but these people need these jobs. These people need these careers, right? We have the opportunity to improve people's lives through construction education. And then we need to, once they've taken that leap and they're learning the industry, working towards credentials, we need to find ways to absolutely match them with careers that suit them and companies that will value them and make that difference to kind of round out this whole circle, right? It's the ultimate win-win. Industry needs them, their lives are improved, and quite frankly, Jeff, they're improved for the rest of their lives because they have a career they can do something with that's portable, transportable. You can go anywhere in this country and they're building things and you can help and you can have a career doing that.
So Boyd, I completely agree. Yesterday up on the Hill, we had I was blessed to be in a group, small group of us that had an employer with us. One of the larger employers in Philadelphia, Pico Energy, was with us, Exelon, and they were there and they were telling our legislators how important it was to make that connection. And they're actually embedded in the classroom setting. Like they're helping students succeed, but they're teaching them what they need to know to be successful at the job, at the career. Like this is what you're going to need to know. And I think you're right. I don't think we do enough connection with employers. I love to see employers embedded in all of our classes. Like let the employers sit there and say, no, they need to know this, and this is what they need to know to be successful in this particular job. And by gosh, if they know these things, then we're going to hire them, right? As soon as they get their high school equivalency or as soon as they get their certification. We don't do enough connecting the dots with employment. And I do think that it is a brutally important piece of that puzzle. As is the reality that, it's not just what happens inside the classroom, it's also outside the classroom. There's a great line by Walt Whitman. He said, we should all be curious and not judgmental. And I think when it comes to our learners, we need to ask the questions. And you hit something that just struck me, which was, not having somebody do something because they have to do it, but because they really want to do it. Like giving them the career pathway that they really love to do. I really want to be in construction. By gosh, let's get them to NCCER so they can get certified and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we think enough about that for our learners. We're too conscious about maybe just throwing them into a job. But, I always say, people are going to come back to you and they always say to me, Mr. A, I'm done frying fries and flipping burgers. I want to do something that's this. And that's where we have to start targeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, NCCER is your national nonprofit and you're doing great work all across the country. What would you like to see legislatively, or if you had a message for people up on Capitol Hill, what is it that you like them to know?
I would like those legislators to know we need to find additional ways to fund programs to get people trained and educated in new careers so that we can create a sustainable career opportunity for them, right? It's sometimes, Jeff, I think it's really hard for people to make change, right? They can't necessarily go without a paycheck for a week, right? They can't, even for a week. So making a change we need to help people to be able to do that. We need to figure out how to say, you're in a job that we realize is never going it's never going to change your wealth situation, and we need to help you to do that. And we need to find ways to fund programs, at a higher scale, greater level in this country to assist people to move, assist people to start programs and assist people to participate in those programs. Because the great thing about construction, as with most of the programs that COABE partners with, is you get to earn while you learn, right? So all we need to do is help them transition over, and then they can go to work, learn as they're earning, and growing their value with an organization if we can get them matched up properly. And I don't think it's that hard to do, because what's happened, Jeff, I think, is many organizations, it's kind of like everybody's waiting for the other person to call, right? The employer needs the people. They're not out there necessarily talking to the programs that can serve the people, send them to people and help them to make those connections. The programs aren't necessarily reaching out as far as they should reach out, but it's almost like you got, well, I'm waiting for them to call me. Well, they're waiting for me to call them, and we're not making that connection. But if we could get people, if we could get adequate funding to help make these transitions, fund these programs so that we can truly create sustainable change and change the in some cases, change generational poverty and stop that and give people jobs that they can go to that create real wealth over time. I think that's really powerful. And Jeff, there's so many places in this country where COABE serves, where we serve, and that opportunities are limited, right? And one great thing about the construction industry is there's not much that holds you back but yourself. And those jobs are portable, they are transportable, and you can go to the big city. If you live in a rural area, you can go to the big city and work, maintain your home in the rural area, and come back to that. But in some of these rural areas, there aren't job opportunities that will ever change the trajectory of that family's wealth and income earning. And so we bring that with construction, and that's one thing I think is really powerful.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I also think that, construction's been saddled with this idea that it's very physical labor and that there's not a next step either. And I think those are wrong. I think that when you're in the construction industry, I know a lot of people have moved on to get their engineering degrees, go post-secondary, and move all the way up the ladder as supervisors, owning their own companies, entrepreneurship, like all these great things that happen. Is a wonderful field for adult educators, adult learners to progress and move on to. And again, it is a very sustainable wage. Before we go, I'm just curious, what do you see in the future of NCCER? Like, where are you going to dive into next?
Well, our big focus, there's two pieces of it. The biggest focus right now is really delivering learning in a different way. We've been, like I said, been in business, been operating for 28 years. We have a massive portfolio of content in 40-something different crafts, as well as much content in supervisory and leadership material for the industry. But we need to find a way to deliver it in a more efficient way, in a way that meets the learner where they're at. So obviously that excellence in that digital learning space is where we're working towards very quickly, and headed towards that very rapidly. And the other is working with COABE and other partners to bring more people into the industry and to make those connections and be a catalyst for those connections that we need so badly, Jeff.
Absolutely love it. Boyd, thank you so much for your partnership, for your friendship, and for being with us. It's remarkable that that we're making these connections, and COABE is leading the charge, but right alongside us is our partners like NCCER, that's just doing great work. And when Adult Education and Family Literacy Week is all week, it does take a village to make change happen. And we need more of you guys out there that are willing to step up and say, you know what, we want to be in the game. We don't want to be on the sidelines. And we appreciate you being in the game and really helping our learners know that there's a pathway for them after those classes, and that education piece. Learning never stops; it always keeps going.
Yeah.
So thank you again for being with us and being part of Adult Education Family Literacy Week, and we look forward to seeing you at COABE 2025 this year for sure.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure talking to you. Have a great day.
You got it. Thanks so much.